As a nonprofit grassroots lobbying organization, Leaders for a Better Community believes that residents, stakeholders, and hardworking families have the solutions to the most pressing issues of the day. Whether it's improving our system of public education, job creation, or public safety reform, it's your ideas that should be the driving force behind thoughtful public policy. Join our fight for a better quality of life at lbcmke.org, paid for by Leaders for a Better Community.
The Packing House has the best fish fry around. Hand-breaded Icelandic cod, perch, clam chowder, tartar sauce, coleslaw, potato pancakes, all made in-house from scratch. Dinner includes 3 large pieces of fish, french fries or potato pancakes, tartar sauce, rye bread and butter, clam chowder, coleslaw, and lemon. Packing House, MKE.com.
The Forum is Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. until 10 a.m. Central Standard Time, covering topics from local, national, and everything in between. It may not be what you expect to hear, but we will definitely give you what you need to know. That's the Forum. There's liberal news, there's conservative news, and then there's the truth. Join us for the truth. Good morning, welcome to the program. Today is Friday, September 25th, 2020. Good morning to everyone who is tuning in via the YouTube. So we are already starting to see what Trump has been threatening, and I don't know if people are taking it seriously or not, because at this point he has done a masterful job of being so outrageous and so ridiculous and throwing American norms, especially when it comes to this really strict standard we have for our elections and also the peaceful transition of power. The things that he has said makes it nearly impossible to take anything he says seriously, which almost allows for him to completely disregard the US Constitution and the standards that have been set hundreds and hundreds of years ago. I'm one of the few people that believes that he is going to do everything in his power to prevent Joe Biden from being sworn in. If that means manipulating the election, if that means disregarding ballots, if that means ordering Republicans, whether it be Republican operatives that he is paying or members of the Department of Justice, to make and give the appearance of some kind of fraud coming from the Democrats, Trump is going to do it. Got a number of stories here really that developed in the last 24 hours. You know, you got 2 major significant things that are happening right now, and well, 3. The coronavirus, which apparently we're just going to live with, so there's that. That's always looming in the background. You have the fallout from the lack of serious indictments in the Breonna Taylor case, and you also have some inconsistencies that we have found very recently in the last 24 hours, 48 hours probably, of ballots being discarded. There's a couple of stories. Two of them are actually in Wisconsin. One of them is in Pennsylvania. And of all places, Scranton, Pennsylvania, there were a number of ballots that apparently were mail-in ballots, and they were marked for Donald Trump, and they were found randomly discarded in a ditch. Now, you guys know that was an inside job, right? Because if you can show a little bit, you don't have to show tens of thousands or millions of votes that were being manipulated. You just need a couple of examples, because what the president can do is say, see, I told you so. Mail-in ballots, and they're cheating, and millions of unsolicited ballots are getting sent out, and look what's happening to them. They found ballots marked for me. They found them in a ditch. You guys know that he's going to try and play us, right? I've been saying it repeatedly. Do not vote by mail. If you have other options to vote, and most of us do, it's like the same argument we had around voter ID. There's a small number of people that it was nearly impossible for them to get an ID, especially if you were born in the Jim Crow South and you weren't born in a hospital. There essentially is very little record of your birth. Hard for those folks, especially if you live somewhere else, if you live in the North and you were born in Attala County, Mississippi, and there's no record of your birth, if you were born in 1937, hard for those folks to get an ID. But for everybody else, they made it as easy as possible, but there's always just a few people that can't get an ID. There's always going to be just a small sliver of people that for whatever reason, they cannot actually vote in person. They can only vote by mail. But if you have the ability to vote like you have normally been voting, and I'm not talking to the people that are on the permanent absentee ballot list, where in the city of Milwaukee for 20 years, there was only 3,500 people out of 330,000 voters. The system is going to get overwhelmed. We're already seeing instances of fraud that the president is going to encourage. Please pay attention when and now Mike Pence has joined in the chorus and has said, well, there'll be a peaceful transition of power only if there's a fair election. Why do they keep reiterating the point that the election is not going to be fair? I want to give a couple of my thoughts on that, and then by all means, would love to hear your thoughts as well. If there is this expectation that the Democrats are going to cheat, I don't know really what we're going to do. Are we going to buy votes? Are we going to go to Kinko's and get a lot of photocopies of votes? I'm not really sure how we're going to cheat. But if there is this expectation, and Donald Trump is making it abundantly clear. Saw a news story last night where they interviewed some people at a Trump rally. I think Trump was in Florida, Jacksonville, yesterday. And they were interviewing people randomly in the crowd. Do you think this election is going to be fair? Do you think the Democrats are going to cheat? And of course, they selected certain individuals to actually make the story. And all of the people that they selected that this reporter was talking to in this crowd of Trump supporters, oh yeah, the Democrats are going to cheat. It's going to be rigged. It's not going to be fair. We need our president to be reelected. It's like these people have been manipulated by a dictator. It was the scariest thing ever. But they had a very consistent theme. What Donald Trump says and what he believes, his supporters reiterate his talking points. Donald Trump will get between 55 and 60 million votes no matter what. It doesn't matter what Joe Biden and Kamala Harris do. It doesn't matter how much money they spend. He's going to get that many votes. And if you have just a fraction of those people, maybe 10% of Donald Trump's vote total, which would be between 5.5 and 6 million people, continuing to reiterate the mistrust that Trump has in the system, the mistrust that he has for these, Joe Biden going to defund the police and all the anarchists are going to take over. That is a sounding board that's extremely difficult to compete with, because if people hear things, even if it's false, if they hear it over and over and over again from people that they know and people that they trust and people that they spend a lot of time with, they're just going to believe it. So it's out there and it's believable to some people that the election some kind of way is going to be rigged against Donald Trump. And he's doing something very similar to what he is doing in what he did in 2016, when he lowered expectations dramatically because he thought he was going to lose. He was trying to say the election was rigged when Hillary Clinton was headed toward what we thought was her eventual victory. And then he had to quickly change course because he actually won. He also said back in the 2016 cycle because he's very telepathic, because he's been a fixture in American media for really close to 40 years. I was watching a Bobby Brown video. This was a while ago. Not sure why I was watching Bobby Brown videos, but I get sucked into these rabbit holes on YouTube. You know what I'm talking about. And it was a song that Bobby Brown did for the Ghostbusters soundtrack. I think it was Ghostbusters 2. And Trump is just in the video for no reason. He walks out of Trump Tower. He's in the Bobby Brown video. Trump has been such a fixture, just a ubiquitous floating figure in the background of American pop culture for a very long time. And when you do something for a very long time, you know how to manipulate it. You know how to use it to your advantage. And he absolutely is doing that. He just needs to sow a little bit more mistrust in the system. Because right now, it almost doesn't matter what your political affiliation is. You can't really trust the institutions in this country. And that was one of the points of him getting elected. He actually was picking people to be members of his cabinet that wanted to talk about defunding things, that wanted to get rid of the Department of Education, that wanted to get rid of the Department of Energy, and all sorts of these departments that, because the Trump orbit didn't know what they did, or they didn't relate directly to his agenda, his business agenda, his empire, then the federal government doesn't need any of these departments. He literally has commandeered the entire federal government. If there's the expectation that the Democrats are going to cheat, and I don't know what these magical people are, the operatives that are going to try and overthrow the election. And see, here's the thing: the Democrats don't have to do that, because I personally believe there's enough. But she still won the popular vote. Joe Biden is going to win the popular vote. In the last 7 elections, it's been a while since the Republicans have actually won the popular vote in this country. So Trump knows he's not going to win the popular vote. But it is the Electoral College that potentially could give him his victory. And as he continues to sow this distrust, because he also knows that with the 30 plus people that were indicted and or found guilty and or serving time in prison or some kind of deferred prosecution or serving home confinement, Trump is individual number one, and just their associations with him got them federal prison sentences. Just their associations with him and the deals that they made for him and the backhanded nonsense and all the illegal finagling of campaign finance reports and taking money from a nonprofit and spending it personally. The list goes on and on and on. He knows that the Biden administration will indict him, and will indict him quickly. That's why they want to pack the federal courts. Because if a Trump case lands in the jurisdiction of a judge that was appointed because their philosophies are similar to Trump, then Trump gets away with it. But he's very telepathic. So what I was getting to earlier, when he said, "Hey, Russia, can you find Hillary Clinton's 30,000 emails?" Remember that? Like October of 2016? And the next thing you know, James Comey comes out at the end of October and says, "Uh-oh, we did find some more emails," because Donald Trump, when he was giving a press conference, told Russia to hack Hillary Clinton's email servers again, and they did. And there was another big document data dump, which essentially stalled the election maybe 2 weeks, maybe 10 days before we voted back in 2016. And now with the information, the false, erroneous information that Donald Trump is communicating, I think he is sending messages to those individuals who have something to gain with his reelection, including people that are in his Justice Department that are, believe it or not, supposed to be investigating the voter fraud. I think he's given them the okay. He also tells people that if you get in trouble, I'll pardon you. If you hit this person in the face and get charged with assault, I'll bail you out. I'll get you a lawyer. But I also want to get to the title of today's discussion. Good morning, Karen, Sandy J, Vanessa G, Denise Jones. Good morning to you. Dorian Higgins. Good morning, my brother. I'm finally able to comment. I'm glad you're here, Mr. Higgins. So what did you have to do, sir, because a lot of people are having trouble commenting on the YouTube, but you're all very smart people. You'll figure it out, but I'm glad you're here. Sandy J, I turned in my ballot to the Election Commission. Good, Sandy. Just don't use the post office, because when you know how it works. You fill out your ballot, you get it witnessed, you sign it, your witness signs it, and then it leaves your hands. It goes to a magical place that Trump is trying to defund faster than activists want to defund the police. And we're expected to trust an agency, which was one of the most popular, universally well-liked agencies in America. People had a lot of confidence in the post office. It was like 90 something percent. There's hardly an institution anywhere in this country other than what, David Hasselhoff. I think people like him. Yeah, that's a bad analogy. Barack Obama, no, not him either. Who is somebody or something that's just universally liked by Americans? Paid holidays? I don't know. Post office was ranked very, very high as far as things that Americans liked, loved, and or trusted. And it's almost like if there's something good that exists in this country, he wants to reduce its status and its stature. So if he's not loved, then anything else that Americans may hold near and dear, I mean, Democrat, Republican, Independent, he wants to reduce the status of anything that is loved more than him. This fight for the Affordable Care Act has me terrified. I'm scared for y'all. I'm so scared. When he gets his Supreme Court justice, which he's going to announce tomorrow, brace yourselves. I'm going to go on a posting frenzy. I'm going to warn you right now. Turn your little internets off if you don't want to hear from old Sherwin tomorrow, because I'm going to be post, copy, paste, post. Trump needs one more vote to overturn the Affordable Care Act. Let me do you one better. Y'all still ain't filling out the census. When my friend, State Representative Lakeisha Myers, has to record a video to tell y'all to fill out your census, it means y'all ain't filling out the census. Let me tell you what that's going to do. Affordable Care Act is going to be evaporated. If you have pre-existing conditions, you probably will not be able to get health care, or you will not be able to afford it. We're not filling out the census, so federal money that would be coming for our hospitals and for emergency services, et cetera, is going to dry up. We're going to lose St. Joseph's Hospital. Imagine what life is going to be like with the things that we deal with and the health disparities we have in our community when you can't afford health insurance and you don't have a hospital in the community, in the neighborhood. Now, there's still going to be other hospitals that rely heavily on this thing we call private pay, where rich people can just pay out of pocket, or whatever their health insurance premiums are, they can just pay it. But those hospitals are far away from where the Black people live. And sometimes we have situations in our community where we need to get to the hospital quick. In fact, we need the hospital to be in our neighborhood. But if it's closed, it's that ride in the ambulance that's gonna kill you. Don't say I didn't warn you. Because Obama was liked and loved so much, anything that bears his name, Trump wants to destroy. Speaking of destroying, I got a story here from Scranton, Pennsylvania, where 7 Trump ballots were mysteriously found in a ditch or in a garbage can. Also have a situation from Outagamie County, and they're following this pattern. In the Outagamie County is Fox Valley area, Oshkosh, Fond du Lac area in Wisconsin, where another set of ballots were just found discarded. So there's somebody somewhere throwing ballots away, then taking a picture of it, and then it's leaked to the media. When I found out about the situation in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and I really got to get to the story in a second because I'll just keep on talking. It was first released by the Trump campaign. Let me tell you something about investigation. You guys know about investigation because we see them all the time. When there is an ongoing investigation, no information about the investigation is leaked, because what does that do? Compromises the integrity of the investigation. You know, when there's an officer involved shooting and somebody gets killed, and we want to see the body camera footage today, we want to see it right now. Why are you waiting 6 months, a year? We want to see the body camera footage. They don't release the body camera footage because it is a part of an ongoing investigation. When the federal government, when the Department of Justice, when the FBI is investigating something that rises to the level of breaking federal law, being federally illegal, they don't leak the fact that this is what they're investigating. The feds never do that. And the fact that the Trump campaign were the first ones to report, they're already cheating President Trump. Look what happened in Pennsylvania. And then we get a statement from the FBI. You guys see what he's doing to this country? And that's one thing. If I interject race into it, which I don't want to do because I'm going to get extremely mad, and y'all know I love my Black people, I wouldn't want to be any other race, because I want to be associated with our history, our past, our struggle, how we went from 3/5 of a human being to, in a short period of time, relatively speaking, became president of the United States. There is no better story of triumph and perseverance than African Americans and Black people in this country. It is a beautiful story. It is magical. I would not want to be anything else, and I can say that unequivocally. Put it on my tombstone. Mark it, whatever minute it is we are in this video, mark it. Wouldn't want to be anything else. With that being said, I get mad as hell at Black people. You know, when Elijah Cummings died, Trump just railed against this man, talked about his rat-infested city of Baltimore, in which the people of Baltimore are a true American city. I love Baltimore, Maryland. Just berated this man after his death. Icon, civil rights hero, John Lewis, another one who we lost in 2020, universally loved probably as much as the post office. Donald Trump didn't even think to attend his funeral. I'm just going to give you these two examples. Badmouthed Elijah Cummings, a member of Congress, a distinguished member of Congress. Trump said bad things about him, didn't find a moment in his schedule, taking himself away from Fox News for just a minute to watch or to participate in John Lewis's funeral. But of course, Barack Obama was there, right? But then Trump goes to pay his respects to Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, may she rest in peace, hated Trump as much as Elijah Cummings and John Lewis, but he went to pay his respects to her because she's white. The other Black men that were purveyors of American democracy, soldiers in the fight for civil rights and justice, to some extent, their work allows me to be who I am and do what I do. Donald Trump didn't think about showing them respect, but Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who we know that Trump does not agree with politically on anything, he went and paid his respects to her. And guess what he got? He got booed like a sucker. Now, if you are Black, then I'm talking to the Black folks right now, white people and others, you're more than welcome to listen. This president has made it abundantly clear to us where he is and his sentiments about us. If we're lucky, we're pawns. If we're lucky, he'll talk about how the Blacks are doing so well, and he's done more for the Blacks in 4 years than, what he said, anybody since Abraham Lincoln. Oh, does he just use us? The difference between right now and when Donald Trump refers to the Abraham Lincoln years is that we did not have the universal opportunity to participate in elections, or even the presidential election of 1860. We as Black people could not vote. In fact, we were still in bondage. There was no emancipation as of yet. I would like to believe that if we as Black people had the right to vote during the 1860 election, we would have voted to remove ourselves from servitude, from murder, from rape, from being dehumanized, and from bondage. I would really like to think that we would have done that. And I do my best to try and live in the spirit of my ancestors, because I have opportunities that no one could have dreamed of, that they couldn't have dreamed of. And so every single day I'm trying to make those folks proud, because one day I'm gonna see them again and I'm gonna want to tell them the good work that I did in their absence, you see. They probably would have wished, and I know they wish they could have participated in the political process that decided whether we were human beings or not. That was in 1860, we couldn't vote. It's 2020 and we can. And the fact that there are people who claim to be for the movement, in the movement, for the cause, that for whatever their reasons are, and people will give you a bunch of reasons, people got excuses. Let somebody be late to work and have them explain to you why they're late to work. People got excuses. But if you have an excuse now and you're Black, and you consider yourself woke and a part of the movement and fighting for justice, and you don't vote, then I know what kind of Negro you would have been in 1860. You would have voted for Jefferson Davis and the Confederacy. Or you just would say, well, ain't nothing we gonna do. You're making it abundantly clear, because now there's an actual opportunity, a real opportunity, to cast a vote, not just against Donald Trump, but for other Democrats that will be a supporting cast of the changes that we want to see in policy. But if you refuse to vote, you are essentially succumbing to the Confederacy. See, we have the opportunity now, and the opportunity is so real and it's so strong for us. That's why Trump is trying to say the election is going to be a fraud. That's why he is ordering people to throw ballots in the ditch and then take pictures of it as evidence of fraud, because he is afraid of us, as he should be. That's why he's doing all of this, because if we come out in robust numbers, we can change the whole political paradigm, course, and scope of the United States of America. But because we seemingly don't have confidence in the system, then we have been operated on like they gave us a lobotomy, it seems, with this white supremacy. And by us not voting, we are doing such a tremendous disrespect to those that wish they could have. Because the choice is this. Do we get a perfect administration with Joe Biden? Hell no, I don't want you to think so. I don't want to set your expectations high if Joe Biden and Kamala Harris get elected. It can potentially get better if we continue to apply this same level of protest pressure to the Biden administration. Don't let up on him. Keep your foot on the gas. But if we take our foot off the gas and just throw our hands up and don't participate in the system that Trump does not want us to participate in, he wants to tell us that it's a fraud designed to continue to work on our missing brains here so we don't vote. Once he gets reelected, there'll be a noose in every tree. Donald Trump will freely use the N-word in every press conference, because why wouldn't he? Why wouldn't he? What are you going to do? Impeach him? What are you going to do? Write a letter to your senator? I saw an interview with Macy Hirono, senator from Hawaii, and the reporter was pressing Senator Hirono. Yeah, Donald Trump said it's not going to be a peaceful transition to power. What are you going to do? She said, oh, well, we want everybody to vote. And the reporter was like, no, I'm not letting you off that easy. Democratic senator from Hawaii. Donald Trump said it's not going to be a peaceful transition to power. We're going to pass a resolution. The Senate can't do anything. The Democrats in the Senate and the House of Representatives cannot effectuate any kind of change. Because if that was the case, remember when they was talking about impeaching Donald Trump and then they did it? How many of y'all thought he was really going to leave office? He didn't go anywhere. He got worse. I said all that to say this. By not participating in this process that you clearly understand Trump doesn't want us to participate in, not only are you following his wishes, you are holding the ladder while his supporters and his administration hang the nooses in the trees waiting for our necks. We get on this peaceful transition of power because there's some things in the past that I dug up. So in the event that Joe Biden wins, and I'm not predicting this election, I'm just not going to do that. I tried to predict 2016, miserably wrong, so I'm not going to predict this one either. But even when we have reasonable, decent presidents, and they talk about this quote unquote peaceful transition of power, there's not. I'm going to go back to when Bill Clinton and Al Gore, when their administration left the White House and the George W. Bush administration came in, and we were all under the impression in 2001 that there was a peaceful transition of power because there was no violence, there was no threatening of a coup. The Clintons, Bill Clinton and Al Gore didn't threaten to sick the military on George W. Bush. They probably attended George W. Bush's inauguration. It was probably peaceful. But there's some things that go on behind the scene, even when we have decent American presidents that have a reasonable respect for the Constitution and for the electoral process. And this one goes back to June of 2002 from Washington. A year-long investigation into whether Clinton administration aides left the White House in fraternity party disarray as they vacated the presidential premises has turned up about $15,000 in damages, according to a government report released in June of 2002. Representative Bob Barr, Republican from Georgia, asked the General Accounting Office in June of 2001 to look into the allegations that Clinton staffers had ripped phone cords from the wall, left obscene voicemail messages, defaced bathrooms, and vandalized computer keyboards by removing all of the W keys for George W. Bush when they left the White House. A number of items, including a 12-inch presidential seal and several unique doorknobs, were also assumed stolen by Clinton aides and staffers. Quote, the Clinton administration treated the White House worse than a college freshman checking out of their dorm room, Representative Barr said. They disgraced not just themselves, but the institution and the office of the presidency as well. So there's always vandalism. And there's even some evidence of vandalism when Barack Obama left the White House and the transition of the Trump team was coming in. So one thing that they do, and this is common, you guys can look this up, they glue drawers shut of so the Oval Office and other important offices in the White House, because they don't take the furniture when they leave. They glue the drawers shut, they're removing keys from the keyboard, stealing things. That's normal. I want you to think about this for a second. If that happened during the Clinton and the George W. Bush and even the Obama White House, they left Post-it notes all over the place. They weren't nearly as disrespectful because Barack Obama is a nice guy and so were his aides and his staffers, but they left Post-it notes all over the White House that the Trump administration didn't find sometimes for months. They had them hidden, little Post-it notes. And you know what it said on the Post-it notes? You will fail. And so for months after Donald Trump's inauguration, they were finding these little Post-it notes that were left by the outgoing Obama administration saying that Trump would fail. And apparently they were right. So I wouldn't necessarily call that vandalism, but that's not a peaceful transition of power. And one of the stories from the Clinton Gore White House was they left pornographic, like they filled up the computer, the copiers and the computer printers with pornographic images, like little stupid stuff. But this is also 20 years ago. Can you imagine what Trump is going to do to that White House? I want you to really think for a moment, because he has no respect for the building. He has no respect for anything. And if those kinds of things were happening, simple, stupid, really childish, sore loser type vandalism things that were happening in true times of peace, can you imagine how they're going to destroy the White House and how Kamala Harris's office is going to be defaced, the vice presidential residence? Like that's a very real thing, because we've seen this in other presidential administrations. So Trump is certainly going to do that. And that's why I titled this broadcast, there's not going to be a peaceful transition of power. Let's get to a couple of stories here in Wisconsin. U.S. Postal Service investigates mail, including absentee ballots, found along the road in Outagamie counties from Greenville, Wisconsin. The U.S. Postal Service is investigating after mail, including absentee ballots, was found along a road in Outagamie County. According to the Outagamie County Sheriff's Office, 3 trays of mail were discovered shortly before 8 a.m. on Monday in a ditch along State 96 at Outagamie County CB Road in Greenville, Wisconsin. The mail was on its way to the post office, and the sheriff's office turned it over to the postal inspector. The mail was mixed and did contain, quote, several absentee ballots, according to the sheriff's office. So when you put your ballot in the mail, you may think you've done your patriotic duty, your constitutional right to vote. I'm telling you, don't use the mail to vote. Postal Service spokesman Francis Pylon would not comment specifically on when or where the mail was found or how many absentee ballots were recovered, but confirmed Thursday an investigation is underway. Oh, there's another one, guys. Vic McGee, thank you, Vic. He says, I'm assuming Vic is a he. Geez, finally found you. I'm glad you did. Then Alden Higgins, who has a different name here on YouTube, gave his explanation of what he had to do to decipher the difficulty of chatting live via YouTube. Once you get used to it, YouTube is better than Facebook, I think, for this. Well, I like it better. Vic McGee, coronavirus will probably become a pre-existing condition. I bet on 100%. Oh, good Lord, yes. The new way of issuing insurance in America is going to be for perfectly healthy people. No family history, no high blood pressure, no diabetes, which is going to count a large segment of the Black population out completely. You will be uninsurable. You ever hear somebody when they get a DWI or OWI and they get real drunk and they drive a vehicle and they get caught? They can't afford insurance. Because that's a pre-existing condition, a dangerous condition on your driving record. You're high risk because you hit a deer or, I don't know, a mailbox with Trump ballots in it when you were drunk and you get a DWI. You got to get SR22 insurance, which is very expensive. And a lot of people just don't get insurance because they can't afford it. And this is why Donald Trump is in such a rush to appoint this Supreme Court justice lady. because she's going to be the vote that is necessary to overturn the Affordable Care Act. Insurance will be unaffordable, but you need to combine that with people not filling out the census. And this is going to be a learning lesson for a lot of people. Unfortunately, the ultimate lesson is going to be learned is people are going to pay with their lives. And while we're still here and while we're still alive and we still have an opportunity, because the new world, the post 2020 election world and the post coronavirus world, the results are going to be beyond painful. I've always held on to this notion because I heard it a long time ago and it's actually true. It takes about 20 years for a presidential administration's policies to be felt throughout the vastness of America. It's not right away. Trump, it seems like a lot of the things that he is doing is right away. He is cementing things in time that are going to be revealing themselves for another full generation. That is why a second term of him is more than dangerous. It will destroy the democracy to something that will be completely unrecognizable. Children will grow up in an America that will be so foreign to us, we won't be able to relate to their world. And they're going to be mad at us. You know how people all of a sudden in these newer, younger generations got mad at the boomers? I don't know what they're going to call us, but it's not going to be nice. And they're not even going to separate us by generation. It's going to be the people that were around and were alive when Trump was in office. Some time ago, probably started in the 2000s, early 2000s, mid 2000s, where Reagan all of a sudden became this poster child for conservatism. And I remember John McCain and Sarah Palin, any Republican that was running in the early and mid 2000s, they always cited Reagan. Even Scott Walker, when he ran for governor the first time in 2006, he modeled himself after Reagan. There's an audio clip that I play of Scott Walker when he thought he was on the phone with one of the Koch brothers. He's like, I was looking at a picture of Ronald Reagan. They fetishized Ronald Reagan because he destroyed unions, number one. He did trickle down economics, which helped the rich people get rich. And so Ronald Reagan in the early 2000s, not really the late 90s, the early 2000s and mid early 2000s, Reagan was just this archangel for the Republicans. That's because it took 20 full years to see the results of that president's policies. Like with Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton, 1994, the crime bill. 20 years later, what are we seeing and what are we always talking about? The mass incarceration of African American men. Now, we knew it prior to, but after 20 years of the Clinton administration, now we are dealing with the results of some of the policies that came from him. So it takes 20 years, and that's very consistent. So we won't feel the full heavy burden, this anvil made out of lead from the Trump policies and the Trump administration for 20 years. And you think it's bad now? I don't want to live the next 20 years of my life dealing with stuff that he did that I didn't know about. Good morning, Eileen. Eileen, I got my ballot in the mail. Where do I send it to be safe, or should I vote on election day? The drop boxes, I got to get the mayor. If I was the old Sherwin, I pull up my dialer right now and I call his office right now. Don't tempt me to call the mayor, because I'll call anybody. I know how to use my phone on my little computer screen. I swear to God, I'll call him. Eileen, what I would recommend is, God, I don't even know what. Wait and I want your vote to count, but I don't. You have it filled out. I want you to vote in person, because when they print ballots, I think they print 3 ballots for each registered voter, or they used to, because if you go and vote in person and you screw your ballot up and your ballot gets spoiled, so when you put it in the machine and it spits it back out, you can get another ballot. I believe you can get up to 2 additional ballots. So if you got your ballot mailed to you somewhere in the universe, you know who I got to get? I got to get George Christensen, the county clerk. He and I actually talked yesterday, because he can give the full explanation of how the electoral counting administration process works in Milwaukee County. So I'm gonna get George on. I called him yesterday and he answered the phone. I'm like, oh, hey, George. He's like, sure, when I'm in a county board meeting. I'm like, why you answer the phone during the county board meeting? So I just don't know what to tell people right now. Just I could say, well, you could mail your ballot in and you can track it on myvote.wi.gov and then you can see if it's been received. Because somebody's ballot is going to go missing. All right, I got another one here. Where's the other one? I got one more. I got so many things. Fed investigation finds 7 votes for Trump discarded in Pennsylvania County, but does not say why. 9 ballots for military personnel were discarded in Luzerne County, a federal investigation has discovered. And so all this stuff is yesterday that we found out about the ballots in Outagamie County here in Wisconsin that were just discarded, thrown in a trash heap somewhere, but they were mysteriously found. And now we have this other story from Pennsylvania in which the Trump campaign broke the story about Donald Trump's ballots being found discarded. 9 ballots for military personnel were discarded in Luzerne County. A federal investigation has discovered. The investigation has spawned after the county's district attorney, Stephanie Salavantis, began looking into possible issues regarding a small number of mail-in ballots last week. Salavantis' office subsequently asked the U.S. Attorney's Office to take the lead in the case, reports the Citizen Voice. The Federal Bureau of Investigation and Pennsylvania State Police worked together to discover what had happened to the ballots, conducting numerous interviews and examining evidence. The Luzerne County Board of Elections was cooperative throughout the process. Investigators ultimately found that at least 9 ballots had been discarded, but declined to mention why that had happened. 7 of those ballots had been votes for presidential candidate Donald Trump, according to the U.S. Attorney David J. Freed. I wonder if he was appointed by Trump. A typical federal investigation, they would not release the details of any of this. They would say there's an ongoing matter relating to ballots. They wouldn't tell you how many. They wouldn't open up the ballots and tell you that they were votes for Trump. Do you guys understand how bad this stinks? This is not how the feds do investigations. They keep these things out of the public view. Our district attorney is a perfect example. No, can't talk about that. Can't release that as part of an ongoing investigation. They have released the number of ballots and who the votes were for. There's been no talk of have these military personnel been contacted? Have they received additional ballots? None of that. They're staging this nonsense so that people lose confidence in the electoral process. And I'm starting to be one of the people that's losing confidence because I said it yesterday. When someone is afraid, when they are fearful, they are the most dangerous. Worst thing that could happen to Donald Trump is if he loses this election. Now, he's going to lose the popular vote, but he also can get reelected to the presidency by losing the popular vote. He's going to cheat. And I got another statement here. This one from the Department of Justice on their letterhead. So there's, and we're what? When is the election? 30-some days, 37, 38 days? More of this to come. Now, another local story. On yesterday's program, I had Alderman Aaron Perry. Aaron is on the Waukesha City Council. He also changed his party. In 2018, he changed his party from Republican to Democrat. He is now running because he just had enough with Republicans and Donald Trump. He said, I can't be a part of the Republican Party anymore, and I respect him for doing that. And now he's running for the Wisconsin State Assembly in the 97th District in Waukesha County, which includes the city of Waukesha. So he's running for the Assembly District in a geographic location in which he is also the alderman. So instead of working locally at Waukesha City Hall, if he gets elected in the 97th as a Democrat to the Assembly, he would then work in Madison, all right? Aaron got contacted yesterday. It was actually before he did the interview with me. And because the information had came just before he got on with me yesterday, he didn't release the information while he and I were speaking. And plus yesterday it was Breonna Taylor stuff. So I talked to him later on several times during the day. And Aaron was contacted by some constituents that are supporters of his. And a husband and a wife that Aaron knows, and they received their ballots, their mail-in ballots. Okay, ballots came to the house. Husband and wife now, ballots came on the same day, separate envelopes, Husband got a ballot in his envelope. Wife has her ballot addressed to her in her envelope. Great. On the wife's ballot, Aaron's name and the office he's running for, Democrat, 97th Assembly District, Aaron Perry. Choose one. You got a little circle, right? And there you go. His name is on the ballot, running for the 97th Assembly District as a Democrat. Husband's ballot. Aaron's office wasn't even printed on the ballot. I want to make sure this makes sense. The wife gets her ballot in the mail. The husband gets his ballot in the mail on the same day in separate envelopes. The wife's ballot has Aaron's name and the office that he is running for as a Democrat on her ballot. Husband gets his ballot and asks the wife, how come Aaron isn't on the ballot? And they compared them. And I have the side-by-side photos of the husband's ballot and the wife's ballot with the Democratic office completely omitted. Now my alarm bells are going off because I don't know if you guys know this, but part of my professional history is I worked in the Doyle administration as chair of the state elections board back in 2005. I had a fit because that's not a one-off. Ballots are printed in bulk by the thousands. How many people that are requesting their mail-in ballots do not even have a Democratic office as a selection on their ballot? So my fraud alarms are going off. And so Aaron is obviously upset because now he needs to know how many people in his district or in Waukesha or hell in Wisconsin are going to receive ballots. And here's the thing. A lot of people don't know that there's state assembly races. A lot of people don't know that there's state Senate races because they're so fixated on the presidential contest. So depending upon where you are in the state, you may not have a clue of who's running for state assembly and state Senate, meaning that when you get your ballot and you don't see that office listed, you may be none the wiser. And I'm being totally honest. Sometimes people are only voting for president. Some folks don't even flip the ballot over. Next time you get your ballot, guys, please flip it over. There's stuff on the back. In fact, when you get your ballot, read it over, please. I'm begging you, just get it. Don't start getting all, oh, Biden and okay, do the Biden thing, but flip it over and make sure you don't miss anything. This is, whether it was a mistake or not, where's the process, where's the protocol of someone proofreading the ballots to make sure that everyone who did all the paperwork and got the nomination signatures and went out in a pandemic to get the signatures to get on the ballot and to disrespect someone by keeping them off? Like, you can't make that kind of mistake. Imagine if you got a ballot and Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's name just isn't on it. All you got is Trump. So we kicked everything into high gear to begin the investigation. We connected Aaron with an election law attorney. And so because we were dealing with this late into last night, and I was making a lot of phone calls to people well after business hours because I really don't care, we will hopefully find out what happened in Waukesha County. Now, there's a very real threat to the Wisconsin State Assembly. Listen, I don't know how this all shakes out. I know our assembly districts are so incredibly gerrymandered that it's going to be really difficult for Democrats to get the majority this cycle. It doesn't mean it's impossible, but it's going to be tough. And so this is a census year, which again, not enough people are filling out their census. And so you know how we've been talking about gerrymandering for the last 10 years, how the Republicans in the state legislature have drawn the maps of the districts so they can select their own voters. And they do that. Here's an example. If we know that in the last 10 years, people have left the suburbs of Milwaukee County, which have always been traditionally white because they were literally created that way. And if we know that they have left like if they left West Milwaukee and West Dallas and St. Francis and Cudahy, if they left Wauwatosa and they've just moved across 124th Street into Waukesha County, and you know the political affiliation of folks who have moved out to the exurbs, what you can do is you can literally draw the assembly district and the Senate district boundary maps to include the people that you know are conservative because they lived and had a conservative voting record in those suburbs, and you can follow the population shift and you can draw the map to include those people that left Milwaukee County for Waukesha or for Washington County. meaning that the encapsulation of voters in that district are going to be overwhelmingly conservative. Now, there are Democrats in some of those districts, but there's not going to be enough Democratic voters because the boundaries were drawn to capture the flight of those that wanted to get further away from Milwaukee County. The Republicans are going to gerrymander these maps because remember, we're in the Trump era and the Republicans have the Wisconsin State Supreme Court. They have a majority. They also have the U.S. Supreme Court, which will be fortified by another justice tomorrow. When Donald Trump makes his selection, and they do have the votes and they want to get her installed because there's a vote on Obamacare coming up on November 10th. The Wisconsin State Assembly Republicans that have also sued Tony Evers over the mask mandate, passed a package of bills to limit Governor Evers' power, are going to permanently enshrine their districts to make sure that they have got conservative voters, even though the Democrats will get the majority of the legislative votes. And with Aaron Perry's office not being on those ballots that we saw in Waukesha, they are cheating the system and they are getting their clues and their tips from Donald Trump. Thanks, guys. Hope you guys have a good weekend. I wish I could have better news for you. Tomorrow, we will find out who Donald Trump is going to nominate for the U.S. Supreme Court. I think it's going to be Amy Coney Barrett, because she is the one that has essentially already committed to doing the bidding for Donald Trump. It's a scary, scary world that we're living in, but fear not. We will persevere because we are the democracy, and I hope we persevere. You guys have a good weekend. I'll talk to everybody very, very soon.